evening, and I'm so glad to have you back with me tonight. We step quietly into the forgotten life of an Athenian woman in ancient Greece. We'll travel with her through her daily life in the times of Plato and the great philosophers. But first, before we begin, I'd love to know where you're joining us from. Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Curl up, get comfortable, and let's gently enter her world. The night has almost ended, though the stars still linger like scattered grains upon a dark cloth. You wake before the rooster cries, stirred by the faint coolness that lingers in the stone walls. The air is hushed. The hearth has gone quiet, but its ashes give off a dry scent that clings to the room. You breathe it in as your eyes open fully. You rise slowly. The woven blanket slips from your shoulders, and you fold it with care, smoothing the creases with your palm. In the stillness, you hear the shift of another body. It is your younger sister, asleep beside you, her breath even, her hand curled under her cheek. You smile at the sight, then slip quietly from the bedding so as not to wake her. The floor is cool against your bare feet. You take soft steps across the room toward the small oil lamp resting on a shelf. The lamp feels smooth in your hand. With practiced care, you set it on a flat stone, strike flint against iron, and coax a spark. Soon, a small golden flame spreads across the oil. The room brightens gently, casting shadows that lean away from the walls. You gather your tunic, plain but neatly woven, and draw it over your head. The fabric brushes your skin with a lightness that reminds you of morning breezes. A girdle at your waist secures the folds. Your fingers move without hurry, adjusting each layer until it lies as it should. Over this, you drape a mantle, ready for the cool air that waits outside. Before leaving the room, you pause. The house is still wrapped in sleep. From the other chamber comes the faint murmur of your mother's rest. She will rise soon, as she always does, but for now, you move ahead alone. The courtyard greets you with silence. A fig tree stretches its branches toward the sky, leaves catching the first pale glimmers of dawn. You run your hand along its bark, rough yet steady, and the simple touch steadies you as well. The air smells faintly of damp earth, of soil resting after night. In one corner stands the clay jar that holds yesterday's water. You lift the lid, dip a cup, and drink slowly. The water is cool, almost sweet, as though the jar itself has given it kindness. When the last sip is gone, you fill the cup again. This time you pour a few drops at the base of the fig tree, a small gift back to the ground. It is a habit you keep, one learned from your grandmother, who believed that trees listen more closely than people imagine. You smile faintly at the thought, then turn toward the gate. The street is narrow and still dim. The stones underfoot hold the chill of night. Far down the slope, where the city opens wider, you hear the faint murmur of others beginning their day. The clop of a donkey's hooves, the call of a man guiding his cart. Their sounds rise and fade like waves. You walk slowly, savoring the peace before the city stirs into fullness. You head toward the fountain house, the place where many women of your neighborhood gather at dawn. The sky begins to lighten as you walk, changing from indigo to a faint blush, as though a painter has dipped his brush lightly across the heavens. The coolness brushes your cheeks, and you pull your mantle closer. A neighbor passes, nods, and offers a quiet greeting. You answer softly, and both of you continue, footsteps echoing lightly. At the fountain house, voices blend together like the hum of bees. Women and girls stand in small clusters, waiting their turn to draw water. You join them, taking your place with patience. The air carries the scent of damp stone and trickling water. You notice the way droplets catch the early light, sparkling briefly before they vanish. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the steady rhythm of water flowing from spout to basin, from basin to jar. It feels timeless, as though the city itself breathes through this fountain. When your turn comes, you step forward, lift the handle of the jug, and set it beneath the stream. The water rushes in, cool and alive. You steady the jar with both hands until it is full. Its weight presses into your palms, but it is a familiar weight, one you have carried many mornings before. With care, you lift it to your shoulder. The clay presses against your skin, rough yet grounding, as you turn toward home. The path back feels warmer now. The sun's first rays slip across the hills, spilling down into the city. Roofs glow faintly golden. You pass a vendor arranging baskets, his figs still dew-touched. A child trots beside her mother, clutching a small loaf of bread. These small sights fill you with quiet comfort, reminders that each day begins with simple labors shared by many. At home, you set the water jar near the hearth. Your mother is awake now, her hands busy with grain. She glances up and nods with gentle approval. Your sister rubs her eyes sleepily, then begins to knead dough with slow, steady presses of her palms. The three of you work in rhythm, each task flowing into the next, grinding, kneading, kindling the small fire. The air fills with the scent of barley and smoke. You feel the warmth grow as flames lick upward, steady and bright. Later, when bread bakes and the hearth crackles softly, you sit for a moment on the low bench. Your hands rest on your lap, your body still. You listen to the quiet murmurs of your family, the shuffle of feet, the low crack of firewood. Beyond the courtyard wall, the city grows louder, but inside, peace lingers. You breathe deeply. The morning has unfolded gently, each step leading to the next, like beads strung along a thread. You are part of this thread, woven into the fabric of the city, of your family, of the earth itself. The day stretches ahead, but there is no need to rush. You sit in calm silence, ready for what will come. And so the morning settles, soft as linen, laid out in the sun. Chapter 2. The Market Paths. The sun has lifted a little higher now, and the sky shines pale and clear above the rooftops. You step through the gate of your home once more, mantle draped loosely about your shoulders. The morning air is fresh, touched with the warmth of coming day. A soft hum stirs in the streets as neighbors set out for their own tasks. You join their quiet stream, feet finding familiar stones worn smooth by countless passages. The path leads you downhill toward the heart of the city. Along the way, the scent of baking bread drifts through doorways. You hear the bleat of a goat tethered outside a courtyard, the splash of water as someone rinses clay vessels clean. Each sound blends into the slow music of morning, and you walk with steady steps, letting the rhythms settle deep within you. When you reach the open space of the agora, it is already alive with movement. Stalls of wood and cloth line the edges, shaded against the brightening sun. Merchants call softly, their voices carrying promises of fresh olives, woven cloth, or small figs just picked. You pass between them, eyes resting gently on each offering. The scent of honey drifts sweet and golden. The sharper tang of fish mixes with it, sharp yet somehow grounding. Near one corner, sprigs of thyme and sage lie in neat bundles, their fragrance rising with each shift of the breeze. You carry a small basket on your arm, woven reeds smoothed with use. Today, you will gather herbs and perhaps some fruit, enough to flavor the meals and bring variety to the table. You stop at the herb seller's stall. The woman behind it greets you with a nod, her hands already busy tying bunches with thin cord. You bend to examine the leaves, brushing your fingertips lightly over them. The scent lingers on your skin, sharp, green, and alive. You choose 2 bundles, place them in your basket, and exchange quiet words of thanks. At another stall, you pause before a pile of apples. Their skins gleam red, some touched with yellow where the sun has kissed them. You lift one gently, feel its weight, and press it softly against your palm. It gives a faint, promising fragrance. You choose a few, enough to brighten the midday meal, and add them to your basket. Coins pass from your hand to the merchant's, and he bows slightly in return. As you continue, you notice other women moving with baskets of their own. Some lead children by the hand, guiding them through the crowd with care. Others walk together in pairs, their voices low and steady, carrying fragments of talk about families, about the price of grain, about the turn of seasons. Their words drift around you like threads of cloth brushing in passing. You listen without seeking to hold them, content simply to be part of this woven gathering. At the center of the agora, a small group has formed. A man speaks, his voice calm yet firm, and several others stand close to hear him. His words are of the city, of duties and choices. You pause at a distance, hearing only fragments. Though such matters belong to the men, still the rhythm of his speech carries through the air, giving shape to the mood of the morning. You watch for a moment, then continue your way, your thoughts light and untroubled. Near the fountain in the square, you rest for a while. Water arcs clear into the basin, falling with a sound that is both lively and soothing. You set your basket down, sit upon the edge of stone, and dip your hand into the cool stream. The water slides across your skin, bringing relief from the sun now rising higher. Children laugh as they play nearby, their splashes quick and bright like small birds darting. Their mothers watch with quiet eyes, their hands steady on the jars they will carry home. You remain there until the weight of the basket calls you back to your path. Rising, you lift it once more to your arm and turn toward home. The streets are warmer now, dust stirred lightly by passing feet. A donkey pulls a cart laden with clay jars, their rounded sides gleaming in the sun. A potter walks behind, guiding with patient words. You step aside to let them pass, offering a smile, which he returns with a nod. Your path leads you up the slope once more. The stones feel warmer now beneath your sandals, and a thin haze of dust clings to your mantle. You pause once to adjust the basket, shifting its weight against your hip, and then continue with measured pace. The air carries the faint salt of the sea, though it lies at a distance. its waves hidden from sight by the city walls. Still, the breath of it reaches you, reminding you that the sea is always near, shaping the lives of those who dwell here. At last, you reach your home. The gate opens with a quiet creak, and you step once more into the shaded courtyard. The fig tree's leaves flicker softly in the breeze. You set your basket upon the low table near the hearth, and your sister looks up from her weaving. Her smile is quick and warm. Together, you unpack the herbs, the apples, each item placed with care. The scent of thyme fills the room, mingling with the faint smoke still lingering from the morning's fire. Your mother joins you, her hands still dusted with flour. She examines the apples, nodding with quiet approval, then slices one to share at once. The flesh is crisp beneath her knife, the sound of it clean and sure. She passes a piece to you, cool and sweet against your tongue. For a moment, you sit together in silence, sharing the simple gift of fruit, the day's early labor, already rewarded. Later, you take up the herbs, tie them with cord, and hang them near the window where the breeze may dry them. The leaves rustle faintly as they settle into place. Their scent will linger for days, filling the house with a quiet reminder of this morning's walk through the market. You smile softly at the thought, content in the rhythm that ties each day to the next. The sun stands higher now, casting its brightness into the courtyard, but within, peace holds steady. You sit for a while, your hands resting on your knees, your gaze drifting across the branches of the fig tree. Its leaves dance lightly, casting shifting patterns of shade. You breathe slowly, deeply, letting the calm settle once more. The world outside moves on with its many voices, but here, within these walls, you are still. And so the morning yields to midday, gently as water flowing from jar to cup. Chapter 3. The loom's quiet song. The warmth of midday settles softly upon your home. The courtyard glows with sunlight, though the shade beneath the fig tree offers a cooler refuge. You step inside the women's room where the loom stands tall, its wooden frame stretching from floor to ceiling. Threads hang in orderly lines, pale and waiting, like rain frozen in the air. Your sister is already there, her hands busy with the shuttle. Back and forth it moves, steady as a heartbeat. The loom's gentle rhythm fills the room, the low tap of wood against wood, the faint whisper of fibers sliding into place. You watch for a moment, letting the sound calm your breath before moving closer to join her. The wool you will use today lies in a basket at the loom's side. You lift a handful, soft and light as clouds gathered from the sky. It carries the faint scent of oil rubbed into the fibers during spinning to keep them smooth. You tease out a strand, long and fine, and begin to guide it across the threads. Each movement is slow, careful, yet familiar. Your hands remember what your mind does not need to command. The cloth grows almost invisibly at first, a faint pattern forming line by line. You lean into the work, shoulders loosening as the rhythm takes hold. The shuttle glides, the threads embrace, the loom hums with its quiet song. In this room, time softens. The bustle of the streets beyond the walls grows distant, as though muffled by the very fabric you weave. Now and again, your sister looks up. Her eyes meet yours with a spark of quiet understanding. No words are needed. The two of you share the loom as you share so much else: the drawing of water, the kneading of bread, the tending of fire. Each task binds you together, like the threads themselves binding into cloth. When your mother enters, her presence adds another layer of calm. She carries a small jug of watered wine, cooled by shade, and pours a little for each of you. You drink slowly, the liquid light upon your tongue, and return the cup with a nod of thanks. She sits with you for a time, her fingers busy with a spindle, twisting loose wool into thread. The whirl spins in her hand, balanced and steady, and the thread grows finer with each twist. Outside the window, the breeze stirs. The leaves of the fig tree tremble, casting flickers of light across the room. The scent of herbs drying nearby drifts inward: thyme, sage, and a trace of mint. You pause once to inhale it deeply, letting the fragrance rest in your chest before you lean back into the loom's rhythm. The hours move gently. The cloth grows, a pattern emerging like a secret slowly revealed. Its texture is simple, yet each line speaks of patience, of steady hands, and unhurried time. You imagine the garment it will one day become, wrapped about a body, carrying the memory of this day's quiet labor. At moments, your mind drifts. You think of the market paths, the sound of water at the fountain, the voices of neighbors carried by the morning air. You think, too, of the philosophers whose words sometimes echo in the agora, though you hear them only in passing. Their questions seem vast, beyond the loom, beyond the courtyard. Yet in your own way, you sense that weaving is also a kind of answer. To take what is loose and fragile, to bring it into order, to create something whole. Your sister hums softly now, a tune without words, simple and sweet. The melody twines with the loom's rhythm, filling the room with a sound both steady and light. You join her quietly, your voice low, the two of you blending until the notes seem to rise from the very wood around you. The cloth grows thicker beneath your hands, and the song carries you forward. When the sun has tilted westward, your mother sets aside her spindle. She smooths the fresh thread across her lap, satisfied. Your sister lowers her shuttle, stretching her arms with a sigh. You do the same, laying your hand upon the growing cloth. It feels warm from your labor, alive with the energy of patient hours. You step outside into the courtyard, the air bright and golden. The fig tree's shade has shifted, its branches leaning toward the evening. You sit beneath it for a while, your body grateful for rest. A cup of water cools your throat, and you close your eyes, listening to the faint rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds returning to their nests. In this quiet pause, you think of how each day holds its own thread. Morning carried the drawing of water. Midday brought the market's hum. Afternoon gave the loom's soft song. Together, they weave the shape of your life, as steady and enduring as the cloth on the frame. As shadows grow longer across the courtyard, you feel a deep calm settle within you. The loom stands silent for now, yet its presence lingers, like the memory of a song that will return tomorrow. And so the afternoon closes, as gentle as the turning of the spindle in your mother's hand. Chapter 4. The Midday Meal. The sun climbs high, casting its brightness over the city, warming stone walls and tiled roofs until they almost seem to glow. You feel the change within the courtyard too, where the fig tree's shadow has shortened and its leaves hang more still. The air carries a different weight at midday, not oppressive, but steady and full. This is the hour when hunger draws you back toward the hearth. Inside, the scent of baking barley bread lingers from the morning's work. The loaf has cooled now, resting upon a wooden board. Its crust is golden and firm, small cracks marking where steam has escaped. You press your palm gently against it. The warmth has faded, yet the smell remains, wholesome and grounding. Your mother prepares the rest of the meal with slow, practiced hands. She cuts olives from their jar, black and glistening with oil, and places them in a shallow dish. Their sharp fragrance rises, filling the air. She slices cheese into pale, neat wedges, each one smooth to the touch. The cheese gives off a faint tang, rich but not heavy. Your task is to rinse the apples you brought from the market. You lift them one by one into a clay bowl, pouring fresh water over them until their skins gleam. Droplets gather like small jewels, catching the light as they slide away. The apples shine red and gold, simple yet beautiful, and you take a moment to admire them before setting them upon the table. Your sister brings herbs, plucked from the bundles now drying by the window. She crumbles a little thyme into a small dish of oil, stirring it with her fingertip until the scent grows fuller, richer, carried upward with each slow circle. The oil shimmers in the light, its surface trembling with the smallest motion. Soon it will flavor the bread, making each bite more fragrant. When the table is ready, your family gathers around. Your father has returned from his morning tasks, the dust of the street still clinging faintly to his sandals. He sets them aside at the threshold, then takes his seat with a quiet sigh of contentment. He nods once to each of you, his eyes soft, his shoulders easing, as though the simple sight of his household has lifted a weight. The meal begins without hurry. A piece of bread is broken, dipped into oil, passed hand to hand. The crust is crisp, the inside soft, and the thyme releases its fragrance with every bite. You chew slowly, letting the flavors rest upon your tongue, not rushing, for this is the hour of pause. The olives bring a sharpness, briny and strong, their oil clinging to your lips. The cheese is gentle by contrast, cool and smooth, tempering the salt. When you bite into an apple, its juice bursts bright, a sweetness that fills your mouth and refreshes your spirit. The mixture of tastes, bread, oil, herb, fruit, creates a harmony as balanced as a song. As you eat, conversation flows lightly. Your father speaks of a neighbor's vineyard, of how the grapes swell under the sun, promising a good pressing when autumn comes. Your mother replies with questions about his mourning, her voice steady, carrying no urgency. Your sister shares a small story from the fountain house, how a child had dropped his cup, how it bobbed upon the water before being caught again. The words bring a soft laugh from your father, and even your mother's lips curve faintly. You add little, content mostly to listen. The voices of your family soothe you, weaving a fabric of belonging as strong as the cloth on your loom. You watch the play of light upon their faces, the way your sister tilts her head when she smiles, the way your father's hands rest broad and calm upon the table. Each detail holds its own quiet beauty, easy to overlook, yet deeply comforting when seen. The meal lasts as long as it needs, neither hurried nor prolonged. When hunger is eased, the dishes are gathered with gentle efficiency. You rise to help, carrying the olive dish to the basin, rinsing away the last traces of oil. The cool water splashes lightly against your skin, washing away the salt, leaving your fingers clean. Afterward, there is time for rest. Your father stretches upon a low couch, his eyes half closed, his breath slowing as he drifts toward sleep. Your mother settles nearby with her spindle again, letting the whirl spin lazily, not with the full purpose of mourning, but with a gentler hand. The threads gather softly in her lap, her motions as steady as the flow of her breath. You and your sister retreat once more to the courtyard. The sun is high, its brightness softened by the tree's shade. You lie upon a woven mat, feeling the earth beneath you, solid and cool through the layers. Your sister rests beside you, her eyes closed, her hand draped loosely across her chest. You watch the sky, pale and endless, a canvas with no mark but the faintest trace of cloud far away. In this stillness, time stretches. You hear the faint buzz of insects weaving through the leaves above. You hear, too, the distant murmur of the city, the bark of a dog, the creak of a wheel, the faint rhythm of voices rising and falling. These sounds do not intrude. They pass like a tide beyond the wall, leaving you anchored in calm. Your body relaxes into the mat, your breath slowing to match the steady pulse of the day. The scents of herbs, of sun-warmed wood, of distant sea air mingle around you, a quiet tapestry of fragrance. Your thoughts drift as lightly as leaves in the breeze. You do not seek to hold them. You let them come and go, each one fading gently into silence. Perhaps you doze for a while, though you do not notice the moment when wakefulness gives way. The world softens, edges blur, and you float between rest and awareness, suspended in a place where time has no hold. When you stir again, the sun has shifted slightly westward, and the shadows lengthen once more. The courtyard feels cooler, touched with the promise of evening. Your sister stretches beside you, her eyes opening with a faint smile. You rise together, refreshed, ready to meet the next portion of the day. The table has been cleared, the hearth swept, the house breathing in its quiet rhythm once again. The meal has ended, but its peace lingers, woven into the afternoon. And so the midday hour passes, leaving behind a calm as gentle as bread, softened in oil. Chapter 5. The Afternoon Errand. The afternoon begins with a softened light. The sun, no longer standing high above, leans westward, sending its brightness in gentler angles across the city. Shadows grow longer, stretching like threads across the stones. The air carries a mellow warmth, less sharp than at midday, touched now with the faintest hint of coolness that promises evening's approach. You rise from your mat in the courtyard, refreshed from rest. The stillness of midday has faded, and the city hums again, not with the bustle of morning, but with a quieter, steadier rhythm. You hear voices beyond the wall, the creak of wheels, the shuffle of sandals, a dog barking once, and then falling silent. These sounds reach you like distant waves, steady but calm. Your mother calls gently. There's a small errand to be done. A neighbor has lent your family a clay vessel weeks past, and today it must be returned. The vessel rests now upon the table, clean and empty. its rounded shape cool beneath your palm when you lift it. Its surface is smooth, marked faintly with lines where the potter's hand once guided its form. You run your fingers along it, appreciating the quiet craft that gave shape to something so useful, so simple. Your sister offers to join you. Together, you step through the gate, the vessel carried carefully in your hands. The path is familiar, lined with houses whose walls rise plain and steady, their gates opening to small courtyards within. Some doors stand ajar, revealing glimpses of trees, of washing hung to dry, of women bent to tasks. Others remain closed, silent and still. The smell of baking lingers faintly from one corner, where smoke curls from a chimney, carrying with it the scent of fresh bread. As you walk, your sister speaks softly, her words light as the breeze. She wonders aloud whether the loom will be finished by the end of the week, whether the new cloth will be ready for dyeing. You answer gently, offering your thoughts. The conversation drifts like a stream, unhurried, each word blending into the next. You do not need to think too much. The path and the errand guide your steps, leaving your mind free to rest within the ease of her company. You soon reach the neighbor's home, a modest place with walls shaded by an olive tree. You knock lightly on the gate, and after a moment it opens. The woman greets you with warmth in her eyes, though her words are quiet. You present the vessel with both hands, explaining its return. She accepts it, nodding in thanks, her fingers brushing yours for an instant. She does not linger. She too has tasks to tend. But the exchange carries a softness, a reminder of how lives interlace through simple acts of lending and returning, of giving and receiving. On the way back, you and your sister choose a longer path, one that curves toward the city's edge. The air there feels wider, touched with the faint breath of the sea. You cannot see the waves from here, but their nearness is always known, carried in the salt that lingers faintly upon the wind. You pause to breathe it in, your chest rising with a fullness that feels both cleansing and calm. From this path, the hills beyond the city are more visible. Their slopes shimmer faintly in the sun, covered in grasses that sway like soft fur beneath the breeze. Olive trees dot the landscape, their silvery leaves flashing as they turn. You imagine the workers among them, their hands stained with oil, their baskets heavy with fruit. The sight fills you with a quiet admiration. Each person tends their own part of the world as you tend yours, and together the city endures. You and your sister linger at the edge of the path, gazing outward. Children play nearby, tossing small stones, their laughter quick and bright. A goat wanders slowly, tugging at patches of grass, while its owner sits upon a low rock, watching with an expression of patient ease. You smile at the simple scene, its peace as steady as the hills themselves. When you turn back toward home, the sun has dipped lower still. The light carries a golden hue now, softening everything it touches, the rooftops, the stones, the branches of the trees. You walk in silence for a while, each step measured, your hearts full with the stillness that comes only in these hours between the heat of day and the cool of night. At home, the courtyard greets you with familiar shade. The fig tree trembles gently in the evening breeze. You step inside, wash your hands with cool water from the jar, and sit once more upon the low bench. Your mother looks up from her spindle, her eyes resting on you with quiet approval, pleased to see the errand done. Your father remains out for now, his tasks not yet complete, but his place at the hearth waits, as steady as always. Your sister busies herself with preparing the loom once more, adjusting the threads so they lie smooth. The gentle tap of wood echoes through the house. You, meanwhile, gather herbs into a small bundle, setting them near the hearth for use in the evening meal. The thyme crumbles slightly between your fingers, releasing a fragrance sharp and green that fills the air. The afternoon wanes, its edges softening. The golden light slants across the courtyard walls, painting them with warmth before slipping slowly away. Birds call as they return to their nests, their voices clear and high, then fading into quiet. You sit for a long while in this stillness, letting the air cool against your skin, letting the calm settle deep. Your thoughts drift again, as they often do in these gentle hours. You think of the loom, of the cloth that grows slowly day by day. You think of the market stalls, of the apples shining in the sun. You think, too, of the philosophers whose voices sometimes rise in the agora, their words carried on the breeze though you stand at the edges. Their thoughts feel vast, reaching for truths beyond the walls of the city. Yet you sense that truth is also here, in the drawing of water, in the passing of a vessel, in the smell of herbs crumbling beneath your hand. As the sun dips lower, shadows gather in the courtyard. The lamp will soon be lit. The evening meal will follow. But for now, you remain still, listening to the soft breath of the city as it moves toward night. And so the afternoon folds itself into evening, as gently as cloths folded upon a bench. Chapter 6. The Evening Meal. The sun has drifted low, its golden path slipping toward the horizon. The courtyard grows softer with shadow. The air cools with each passing breath of wind, carrying with it the sense of hearth smoke rising from many homes. Evening has come, the hour when lamps are lit and families gather once more. Your mother calls you gently, her voice calm but steady. Together with your sister, you prepare the hearth for cooking. The ashes of the morning fire lie pale and grey, faintly warm but fading. You take a small bundle of kindling, thin twigs tied with cord, and set them carefully within the hearth. Your sister places a few larger pieces of wood above them, leaving space for the air to move between. Your mother leans close with flint and steel, striking until a spark catches. The flame grows slowly, first a faint glow, then a flicker, then a curl of smoke rising upward. Soon the fire crackles, alive once more. The light of the flame touches the walls, casting soft shadows that sway with each flicker. The warmth spreads gently into the room, a comfort against the coolness of evening. The fire speaks in its quiet way, wood popping, embers shifting. You listen for a moment, letting its rhythm settle into you, steady and sure. Your mother sets a pot upon the stones, filling it with water drawn earlier in the day. Into it she drops handfuls of lentils, small and pale, each one sinking with a soft splash. She stirs them slowly, her wooden spoon moving in unhurried circles. The scent of the lentils soon begins to rise, earthy and mild. She adds a pinch of salt, a crumble of thyme, and a small drizzle of oil, each gift lending its own note to the simple dish. Your task is to slice the last of the apples. You take up the small knife, pressing its edge gently through the crisp flesh. The sound is clean and sharp, the slices falling neatly onto the wooden board. Their pale surfaces glisten in the lamplight, fragrant and sweet. You place them into a bowl, setting them aside for later, a quiet reward for the end of the meal. Your sister crumbles more herbs into the pot, her hands light and careful. The fragrance grows stronger, filling the air with green sharpness. She leans close, breathing it in, then smiles faintly. The pot simmers, small bubbles rising to the surface, releasing their warmth and scent into the room. The fire glows brighter now, painting the courtyard walls with shifting light. Your father returns at last, his step slow but steady, his shoulders marked with the dust of the road. He sets aside his sandals, washes his hands at the basin, and comes to sit near the hearth. His eyes soften as he looks upon the three of you tending the fire, preparing the meal. He doesn't speak at once. He sits in silence, breathing deeply, letting the peace of the household wash over him. Soon, the meal is ready. Your mother ladles the lentils into shallow bowls, the steam curling upward like soft threads of cloud. The broth is rich but gentle, carrying the warmth of the herbs. She places the bowls upon the table, along with bread saved from the morning, now sliced and ready for dipping. A dish of olives sits nearby, dark and gleaming. The apples wait, their sweetness saved for the close. You sit together, the four of you, around the small table. The lamp glows beside you, its flame steady, its light casting each face in warmth. The evening meal begins with no haste. You dip bread into broth, tasting its softness, letting the warmth spread across your tongue. The lentils are tender, their flavor earthy, carrying the memory of the soil in which they grew. Each spoonful brings comfort, not from richness, but from simplicity. The olives are sharp again, their brine cutting through the gentleness of the lentils. You alternate between them, bread, broth, olive, each taste balancing the next. Now and again, you sip watered wine, cool and light, smoothing the flavors into harmony. The meal is modest, yet it fills you with a sense of wholeness, of being cared for and sustained. As you eat, voices flow once more. Your father speaks a little of his day, not in detail, but with enough to share its shape. He speaks of a friend he greeted, of a task completed, of the sight of ships resting in the harbor, their sails folded like wings. His voice is steady, unhurried. Your mother listens, nodding at times, asking small questions. Your sister smiles, telling of the loom and the pattern beginning to emerge. You add a word here and there, but mostly you listen, letting the sound of their voices fill the room. The apples come last. Each slice is passed gently, shared between you. Their sweetness refreshes, a bright close to the meal. You savor your piece slowly, letting the juice linger upon your tongue, grateful for its gift. When the bowls are emptied and the bread gone, you gather the dishes quietly. The sound of clay against stone echoes softly as you rinse each bowl in turn, the water splashing lightly, carrying away the remnants of the meal. Your sister dries them with a cloth, folding each piece of pottery back into its place. Your mother wipes the table clean, leaving it smooth and bare once more. The fire burns lower now, its flames dwindling to embers. You sit for a while longer, your family gathered close, the lamp's glow steady against the deepening night. Your father stretches his legs, leaning back with a sigh of ease. Your mother's spindle rests beside her, the day's thread coiled neatly. Your sister leans against the wall, her eyes half closed, her breath even. You sit quietly, watching the play of shadows upon the walls. They dance gently, swaying as though moved by an unseen breeze. You listen to the sounds beyond the house, the faint calls of neighbors, the bark of a dog, the distant cry of a night bird. The city softens in the dark, its voices fading into stillness. The lamp flickers once, then steadies. The courtyard feels hushed, wrapped in calm. You breathe slowly, deeply, feeling the weight of the day settle gently upon you, not as a burden, but as a blanket. Each task, drawing water, tending the loom, preparing the meal, has carried you here to this hour of rest. You feel the nearness of your family, each presence as steady as the fig tree's roots. You think of the way your life is woven into theirs, as cloth is woven from threads. The thought brings a quiet peace, deeper than words. The embers glow faintly, the lamp hums softly, the night deepens around you. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the calm settle through you, like warmth spreading outward from a hearth. And so the evening meal ends, leaving behind a stillness as gentle as the flame of a lamp at rest. Chapter 7. Night across the courtyard. Night comes quietly, as if it had been waiting just outside the gate all along. The last color slips from the sky, leaving a pale wash that deepens into blue, then into a calm and generous dark. The lamp on the low shelf gives its patient light, a small flame shaped like a leaf, bending and steadying again. In the courtyard, the fig tree's shadow dissolves until only its outline remains, a quiet hand raised toward the stars. You move through the house with soft steps, tidying what the day left behind. The wooden board is wiped clean, the knife dried and set in its place. The small dish of oil is covered with a smooth shard of pottery. You lift the water jar, tip a little into the basin, and wash your hands and face. The water is cool and clear, carrying a faint stone scent from the jar's walls. Droplets trail from your chin to your collarbone, small and bright in the lamplight before they fade into the linen. Your mother settles the hearth for the night. She stirs the embers with the long iron, coaxing them into an even bed of red. She adds a little ash to cloak the glow, so it will keep a low warmth until morning. The faint crackle sounds like a whisper. You watch her hands, strong and sure, and you feel the room breathe with an old rhythm, the same rhythm that held yesterday and the day before that. Your sister sits near the doorway that opens to the courtyard. Her back rests against the wall and her fingers hold a small piece of wool. She is not weaving now, only smoothing a short thread between her palms, as if calming a small bird. She hums very quietly, hardly a tune at all, more a shape of sound that comforts her mouth. When she meets your eyes, you share a small smile, and the quiet hum continues. The night beyond the wall is a still ocean. You hear the city in fragments, a low voice speaking in a neighbor's courtyard, an amphora's rim knocking lightly against stone, the soft thud of a door. Farther away, the sea breathes, though you cannot see it. You hear it as an idea in the air, the cleanness of salt, the patience of water touching rock. A breeze glides through the fig leaves and brings that hint of salt to you, and you inhale without thinking, as if if this breath has come from a very long way to find your chest. Your father sits upon the bench by the lamp, his shoulders easy now. He draws the strap from a worn leather sandal and smooths it with his thumb. You have seen that gesture many times, the thumb circling the place where the leather bends most, restoring it, learning it, accepting it. He looks toward you. "Will you bring the small bowl?" he asks, and his voice is gentle. You fetch it from the shelf, clay warm from the day, its edge a little uneven, and you set it on the table. Into it he places a few olives he held back from the meal, and one end of bread, saved for later. There is no hunger now, but he likes to keep a little at hand, a habit learned from a year when harvests were thin. The bowl sits between you both, modest and sufficient. When your mother has finished laying the hearth, she turns the lamp wick, a careful touch to steady the flame. Then she sits beside your sister. For a while, you only listen. To the thread's faint sigh against your sister's palms, to the far-off roll of a cartwheel on a stone slope, to a night bird calling once and then not again. In the doorway, the sky is a deep bowl filled with stars. You know some by how they rise and go, by where they stand when the rooster cries, by which one leans over the hills before winter. But tonight, you do not name them. You let them rest above you, silent and bright. Your father begins to speak in a low tone, more to the room than to anyone, of something he heard in the agora earlier, how a man with a calm voice asked questions and then asked more questions, not to catch anyone, but to open the space in a thought, like parting the threads on a loom. Your father says he stood at the edge and could not hear every word, only the shape of the talk, but it was like watching a careful hand choose the next thread. He does not say the man's name. He does not need to. The city has many such voices now. They walk the columns and the shaded steps and leave their traces in the air. You are quiet as he speaks. You feel the presence of those questions without knowing them. You think of water in the fountain, always falling, never the same, and yet you call it the same fountain. You think of a fig that grows sweet under the sun, and how sweetness cannot be seen but only known in the mouth. You let the thoughts turn and settle like embers, arranged to keep the warmth. The lamp's light lies upon the clay floor, like a thin sheet of gold. Your mother says a few words in reply. She does not turn thoughts into knots you cannot loosen. She speaks in the way of practical care, of what the hands do, of what lasts when words pass. Still, you hear kindness in her voice, and patience with the wind of new ideas that blows through the city. She reminds your father to keep a cloth over the bowl if he means to save the bread. Your father laughs softly, and the cloth is laid. Later, your sister rises and goes to the courtyard. You follow, and the two of you stand near the fig tree. The ground is cool under your feet. A moth passes through the lamp's spill and is gone. From the corner where a small shrine sits, a little ledge of stone, a bowl, a strip of dyed cloth, you bring a few grains of barley from a pouch, and with a small tilt of your hand, you scatter them. You do not speak a prayer aloud. You think it, soft and simple, like water poured where a plant will need it tomorrow. Your sister does the same. The grains make a tiny sound when they fall, the sound of care made small and given anyway. You return to the doorway and sit with your back to the wall. The stone holds the day's warmth still. A gentle draft moves past your skin, the kind that smooths the edges of thought. You draw your mantle close, not because you are cold, but because the weight of it anchors you in your place. Your sister leans her head to your shoulder. You feel the rise and fall of her breath as it settles into a slower pattern. In the room, your mother has taken up her spindle. She does not spin now. She only traces the groove long practice has made on its whirl. She must be remembering the early mornings of many years, the sound of her mother's spindle, the loom's soft knock, the bread rising by the hearth. Your father turns the lamp wick again, testing its steadiness the way a sailor might test a rope. The flame thins, then gathers itself and stands. A neighbour's song comes faintly through the wall. It is not a song with a beginning or an end. It is a line that holds the day's weight and then sets it down, one syllable at a time. The words are ordinary, of grain that grew, of rain that will come, but the tune makes a simple thing larger. Your mother closes her eyes for a breath. You feel the sound pass over the courtyard like a hand smoothing wrinkled linen. After a time, your father rises. He carries the lamp to the far corner, checks the door, returns it, and sets it down again. He speaks your name and your sister's, not to command, only to touch your ears with home. He thanks your mother for the meal, for the steady day, and she answers in a phrase so familiar that it is stronger than new words. You look at them and see what the loom has taught you, that the strong fabric is made by many crossings, not one. There is still a little work left, a small kind that belongs to the dark. You fetch the folded cloth from the chest, linen for tomorrow's tasks, and shake it gently to release the day it remembered. It settles, light and quiet, across your forearms. You check the hem for any thread gone loose, and where one has slipped, you tuck it back with the tip of a needle, your fingers careful, your breath measured. The needle's point finds its path as if it knows the old road. Your sister winds a short length of yarn into a neat coil for morning. She places it in the shallow basket that waits beside the loom. She looks once at the pattern you have both made, the new length that grew today, and nods a small nod, satisfied and hopeful in the same gesture. You both understand that work done without hurry keeps its strength. The night deepens, the stars gather more closely, or perhaps your eyes learn them more fully. The breeze grows cooler. From the street, a final voice passes, then none. You rise and pour a little water into a cup for the lamp. Tomorrow you will fill the jar again, and the water will be fresh. You look down at the embers, now only a slow, living red. Your mother draws the pot's lid across the mouth of the hearth and rests her hand upon the stone. "Enough," she says softly, and the word carries rest to the whole house. You prepare your bed. The woven mat feels familiar, the place where your body knows how to release itself. You spread the blanket, lifting and letting it float down. It settles with a faint breath of air, and you smooth its surface with your palm. The act is the same each night, and has the same power each night. It tells your muscles that they can untie, that the day is finished, and the next will come when it is time. Your sister lies beside you. She turns on her side and tucks her hand under her cheek. In the doorway, your mother stands a moment longer. She looks over the room as if counting its quiets, the bowl with its cloth, the spindle at rest, the needle returned to its place, the lamp's flame lowered but still steady. Your father draws the bolt, soft to protect the wood, and the small sound closes the day. You lie on your back and let your gaze drift upward to the lintel, to the square of night beyond it. A star looks back at you from that square, and then another takes the first one's place when a thin cloud crosses. You follow a thought only until it loosens from its own weight and drifts away. You listen to your sister's breath, to your own, to the faint, even hush of the distant sea. The house has a slow heart tonight, and you feel yourself in its rhythm. You do not try to sleep, you only become it, as one becomes the water by entering slowly, as one becomes the cloth by touching it long enough to forget the hands. Around you, the lamp guards a small circle and asks nothing. Above you, the night holds its shape, patient and kind. And so the city grows quiet, and your house grows quieter still, until the dark itself seems woven, soft and whole, and you sink into it like a leaf settling gently upon a calm pond. Chapter 8. A Day of Offerings. Dawn returns as if it had only stepped outside to wash its hands. The first light folds over the tiles and along the courtyard wall, pale and even. The fig leaves hold tiny beads of night, and when the air stirs, each bead slips and falls without a sound. You wake easily, as you often do on days set aside for the gods. There is no haste in your body, only a sense of order, like a path you can follow with your eyes closed. Your mother is already up. She moves quietly, drawing water from the jar, laying out a strip of clean cloth, placing a small dish of barley on the low table near the doorway shrine. Your sister gathers a sprig of thyme from the bundles you tied days ago, the scent rising at once, green and bright, as if the plant were still rooted in the hill's thin soil. This is not a great festival with crowds and shouts and colored ribbons. It is a smaller day, a day of household offerings, simple and clear as water poured from one vessel to another. You wash your face and hands at the basin. The water is cool and tastes faintly of clay where your fingertips meet the surface. You dry your hands on a woven cloth and feel the warp and weft whisper across your skin. Your mantle is plain today, but you pin it carefully so that it lies clean and straight. Your mother adds a small thread of dyed wool at the edge, only a breath of color, like the line a swallow draws across the sky. Before anyone speaks of leaving, you complete the first kindness of the morning. A few drops of oil are placed in the shallow lamp at the doorway shrine. Your mother turns to you, and you touch the wick with the coal she has saved from the hearth. A small flame wakes and holds. You set the barley near it, and with 2 fingers you lift a pinch and let the grains fall, soft as rain. The sound they make against the clay is so light, you feel it more than hear it. The city is still early when you step outside. The streets wear a gentle face. In the distance, the hills keep their shapes like calm animals at rest. You carry a small basket with a folded cloth, some barley, a small cake lightly sweetened with honey, and the thyme. Your sister walks beside you, and your mother follows with a modest jug, the clay of it the color of warm bread. Your father will meet you later, after a necessary task, but the first way belongs to the women and the quiet of morning. You walk toward a small sanctuary not far from your home, a place that holds its own circle of air. Its gate is low, the stones of its wall sun-warmed even at this early hour. A fig tree stands here too, older and thicker than the one in your courtyard, its leaves stirring in a pattern that seems to answer your breathing. Within the wall, a simple altar waits, stone smoothed by the palms of those who have stood here before you, by seasons of sun and rain. There are other women already near the altar. Their voices are hushed, not from rule, but from the way the place holds sound. Greetings fold in, like soft fabric. You set your basket upon a flat stone and uncover the offerings. The honey cake carries a delicate sweetness into the air. Bees find such scents from far away, but today the scent rises and lingers close, as if reluctant to leave the circle of the wall. Your mother nods to you, and the three of you share the work without dividing it. You place the barley. Your sister lays the thyme. Your mother pours a little water from the jug to prepare the place. When she lifts the jug, the thin lip glints, and the water falls in a small clear ribbon that darkens the stone where it touches. For a moment, the world seems to gather around the curve of liquid, around the border where water and rock meet. Then the ribbon breaks into pearls, and the pearls become dark patches, and the altar breathes them in. A woman you know from the fountain house steps forward with a small clay bowl of her own. She tips it carefully, and a handful of olives roll into her palm, then into a dish. The olives seem almost like small stones made tender by oil and sun. Her daughter watches with serious eyes and does not fidget. It is a good sight how the young stand still when quiet is a teaching, not a command. When it is time, you slip a finger of the honey cake and set it on the altar ledge. You do not ask for anything with words. You hold a shape of thanks in your chest, the bread on your table, the water that came clean from the jar even in the dry days, the loom that moves and makes a sound like rain in summer. You think of your sister's steady hands, of your mother's patience, of your father's sandal strap worn smooth where his thumb travels. Gratitude fills you like a bowl that finds itself full without remembering the pouring. After the offerings, the women do not leave at once. The sanctuary has a bench that runs along one wall, and you sit there beside your sister. The wall carries a coolness that seeps into your back and shoulders. Above you, a small square of sky opens like a window set high. The light that enters finds dust motes and lifts them in slow dance. You watch them without naming. They drift, spin, rise, fall, a tiny feast for unhurried sight. Words come, but they are soft ones. A woman mentions her vines and how they twine more eagerly toward the southern stones than the north. Another says her goat has grown fond of a certain hillside and will not be led any other way. These are matters of small weight, and yet they are the things that hold a day in its place. You listen, and your listening is part of the talk, a thread that does not show in the pattern but gives it strength. Later, your father appears at the gate. He greets the women with a dip of his head and a line at the mouth that is not quite a smile but carries the warmth of one. He stands a respectful space from the altar and lifts his eyes toward the fig leaves where sunlight presses coins of gold against the green. He too says little. The sanctuary's silence is a net that catches words and lays them down gently. When you leave the small enclosure, you feel as if you are carrying a jar filled with clear air. The street is brighter now. The city has moved from first motion to easy stride. Sellers in the agora have opened their cloths. The day's fruit catches the light. A philosopher has moved to the shaded edge of a stoa, his followers forming a half-ring that breathes in and out with his questions. You pass at a distance. His words reach you only as waves. Why, what, when, how. Yet a quiet within you answers with its own words. Bread, water, thread, hands. You do not feel the two are at odds. The city keeps both, the talk that seeks a name for the good, and the small acts that build the day where goodness can live. You and your family take a slower way home, the path that bends near an olive press. The heavy beam is still. It will wake later when jars arrive from the hillside. You run your palm along the smooth wooden curve and feel where many hands have passed, leaving a polish like river stone. A man sweeping the threshold nods and keeps to his strokes. The brush whispers against the stone, a steady sound that makes time gentle. At your gate, the courtyard welcomes you with a shade that feels like an old friend's hand upon your shoulder. The lamp at the doorway shrine is still alight, the flame quiet, like a bird that has folded its wings. Your mother moves to the hearth. There is barley to sift and a pot to set. Even on a day of offerings, you help without speaking. The work has a softness to it now, as if it had breathed the same air as the sanctuary and carried that air within its own light weight. Your sister brings the loom its afternoon greeting, a touch to the growing cloth, a small correction in the line where the weft dipped, a new shuttle thread measured with her eye. The loom answers with its faint wood knock, as if clearing its throat, pleased to find you near again. You wind a small ball of yarn, not for need, but as a kind of quieting, the way one hums to feel the shape of contentment with no other reason. The midday meal is modest. Yesterday's bread warmed at the hearth, a small dish of olives from the jar, a handful of fresh herbs crumbled into oil. Your father eats with you and looks often at the doorway as if the fig tree's shadow were a sundial he trusts more than his own sense of time. Conversation takes no effort. You speak of the sanctuary bench and the dust that danced. He says the ships in the harbour waited with their sails furled like sleeping wings. Your mother notes the hush in the air, a hush that feels like a long breath held and then released without sound. After eating, there is the hour of rest, not sleep, not always, but the easing of joints and the stilling of thought. You sit on the mat beneath your fig tree. A bee explores the thyme you crushed earlier. It does its work so earnestly that you cannot help smiling. Your sister lies with her hands folded on her belly and counts her breaths without meaning to. Your mother closes her eyes and the spindle in her lap does not move, yet it belongs there just the same. When the day tilts toward afternoon, a neighbor taps lightly on the gate. She asks whether you might bring a little water to her mother, who has found the heat unkind today. Your mother nods at once. You lift the jug you did not empty at the sanctuary and the small cup. At the neighbor's house, the older woman sits with her feet in a shallow bowl, the water around her ankles as cool as a shaded stone. You kneel and pour a little into the cup and hold it while she drinks. She thanks you in a voice like the edge of paper, thin and soft. On the way back, the jug is lighter, and your hands feel that lightness as if it were a blessing sent the other way. The shadows lengthen on the courtyard floor. Evening will come with its lamp and its lentils, as it did before, as it will again. But this day has a different thread woven through it, a pale line that shines when the cloth is turned a certain way. almost see it now, how the morning offering at the small altar has set a contour on every hour since. Even the simple tasks have seemed to carry their own small music. The sweep of the press threshold, the whisper of the brush, the broken line of a sailor's rope gathered on a dock. You rise and check the doorway shrine once more. The lamp has thinned. You lift the wick a finger's width, and the flame answers, not with a burst, but with a patient bloom. You take a single grain of barley from the dish and set it by the lamp, not because anyone told you to, not because it is written, but because a day that began in stillness is well pleased to close with a small stillness of its own. By the time the first coolness of evening walks the streets, the sanctuary's stone will have shed the last of the water you poured upon it. The time will lie quiet on the altar ledge. The fig leaves there will make their own night shadow against the wall. You will not be there to see it, but the shape of the place will travel in you all the same. And so the day of offerings settles into your house like a gentle hand smoothing the coverlet of a bed. No weight, only care, and a calm that lingers after the touch is gone. Chapter 9. The Turning of Days. Morning begins again, as it always does, with light that first asks and then answers. It presses gently against the edge of the doorway, gathers on the floor like spilled milk, and climbs the wall with slow courage. The courtyard is hushed. Dew has left a pale mark on the packed earth, darker where the fig leaves shed their tiny beads. You lie still for a few breaths and feel how the house holds quiet, like a cup that has learned exactly how much it can carry. You rise. The blanket slides from your shoulder and makes its small sound, the sound of woven threads giving one another room. Your sister turns in her sleep and catches a corner, then releases it again. You smile and move with care. The oil lamp, trimmed low last night, is a thin ember of scent and smoke. You touch the wick with flint, and a steady flame wakes like a thought remembered. The room loosens its shadows one by one. Your tunic is cool as you draw it over your head. The girdle finds its place, firm and familiar. The mantle rests upon your shoulder. The pin settles, the fold lies smooth. Your hands have done this so often that they do not need you to speak to them. You lift the water jar a little to judge its weight. It is light enough to tell you that this first task belongs to you. The street outside is pale and clean, as if the dark had washed it well. You pass the same doors and the same walls, yet nothing is stale. Scraps of sound begin the day. The gentle click of a gate latch, a sparrow stitching its small note along a roofline, a cough softened by distance. The air holds the shore's faint salt. You do not see the sea, but it breathes near you, as steady as your own chest. At the fountain house, the first women have already gathered. They greet you with nods and soft words, as if each name were a warm cloth laid across the morning. You step to the basin, rinse your hands, set your jar beneath the spout. Water takes its shape, round, falling, full. It knows how to enter clay and wait. When the jar is filled, you lift it to your shoulder and feel the pressure land where it always lands. It is a known weight, the weight that brings the day into your body and sets your pace. You take the shorter way home, along a path where wild thyme strays through the cracks. The plant is small and stubborn and patient, and its scent rises when a sandal brushes it, as if sweetness needed only the lightest invitation. You breathe it in and and think of the small bowl of oil that will wait near the bread, and of your mother's fingers crumbling a pinch with the same care she gives to larger things. At the gate, the fig leaves sketch their kind shade across the courtyard floor. Your mother is already at the hearth, grinding the last of yesterday's grain. She looks up, and you do not need more than the brief meeting of eyes to know she has slept well enough. Your sister comes after, tying her hair with a strip of cloth the color of raw wool. The three of you move in the simple order the day asks for: water to the jar, grain to the bowl, wood to the fire. A spark takes, the small flame lifts, the room confesses its chill and lets warmth in. Bread rises beneath a cloth. You set olives in a dish and place a thin wedge of cheese beside them, its pale edge already softening in the new heat. Your mother nods at the dough and says, "Soon," in the tone she has used for years to measure this one faithful length of time. Your sister opens the window to the women's room so air can find the loom. The threads make a faint, sweet sigh when the breeze touches them. You answer them in your heart, the way you answer a child that has not yet learned many words. Later you step to the street again, empty-handed now, only to walk and see. The city's light gathers itself into a clearer gold. A potter sets his jars in a patient row, each one the color of warm bread, each one with its own slight, honest tilt. A child traces a circle in dust with a stick and then unfolds it into a fish. You pass beneath a stoa whose columns keep their cool even when the day grows large. From the agora, a voice carries, not loud, not scolding, not proud. It flows with care from a man whose thought is a steady oar. People stand near him, their heads slightly bent in the way of those who want to meet a word halfway. You pause at the edge where shade and sun touch. You cannot catch all that he says, nor do you need to. The sound of questions, shaped with patience, is enough. It adds a clean line to the day, like the seam of a well-made garment. You buy nothing today. There is bread at home, and olives, and the last of the apples if the skin still holds firm. You carry back only the ease of walking a city that knows your steps, a city whose corners keep your days like a shelf that has learned the weight of the bowl it holds. This is not pride. It is kinship. At home, the bread's crust has formed, and its smell sets a small bell ringing under your ribs. The loaf comes to the board with a sound like a light knock. You break it and see the steam rise like a blessing without words. Oil gleams in the shallow dish. Time gives its green courage. Cheese leans into its shadow. Your father comes to the threshold, dust on his sandals, the color of the road, a strand of hair fallen soft across his brow. You place the bread in his hand, and it is enough. Midday is quiet. After eating, you rinse bowls. Water takes away what does not need to stay. The table, wiped with a clean cloth, gives back a pale, simple shine. Your mother sits with her spindle, not to chase time, but to walk beside it. The world turns slowly and finds the path it made yesterday and last spring and the spring before that. You lie with your back upon the mat, under the fig tree's shadow. Patterns of light pass over your face when the leaves stir. Your sister rests, one knee bent, one hand over her eyes, a small smile at the corner of her mouth, as if she had just found a familiar place again. The loom waits for the hour when the threads are most docile. When you rise and stand before it, the frame greets you like a tall, polite friend. check the warp, tighten one knot, lift the heddle, run the shuttle through. The weft slides and the beater sets it home with a soft, certain tap. This sound has become a way of counting. It is not a number you could say aloud, yet it measures. The cloth grows. A pattern, modest and regular, shows itself like a shore when a mist lifts. You think of the many mornings that have brought you to this hour, not as a line of steps leading away from something, but as a circle that has learned to be round. The loom does not hurry. It does not hold back. It asks you to come as you are and do the next small right thing with both hands. Later, when the light begins to tilt and soften, you take a different errand, the kind that does not require a jar or a coin. A neighbor's boy has bruised a knee and will not be soothed by reason. His grandmother sent a message. Would you bring a sprig of thyme and a calm voice? You go. The boy sits on a low stool, frowning at his own leg, as if it had betrayed him by being made of bone. You wash the mark with cool water and speak the story you know, the one where knees learn the ground and the ground learns knees, and both agree to be kinder tomorrow. He breathes out. His mouth smooths. He tests his steps. The sprig of thyme goes into his hand, because it is good to hold a thing that smells like hills. You return by the olive press. The beam is in motion now, slow as a thought that will not be rushed. Oil glows where it gathers, heavy and clear. A worker draws a circle on the stone with his brush. He sweeps pulp from the edge, then sweeps again. He does not look hurried, though what he does must be done now and not later. You watch long enough to learn one more small way of patience. Evening draws its first line across the courtyard. Your mother turns the hearth's thought toward lentils again, or perhaps a thin chickpea stew that hums with garlic and a touch of herb. Your father brings a story of ships whose sails filled just enough to move, but not enough to boast. Your sister separates two threads that tried to braid themselves by mistake. You cut apple slices to sweeten the end. The lamp lifts its flame and offers evening the face it likes best. You eat together. The stew says earth. The bread says hand. The oil says hill and stone. The olive says sea and sun. Water says jar and clay and time. Nothing argues. The flavors take turns and do not crowd. Your father speaks of a friend who found good timber. Your mother answers with the price of grain, not to complain, only to set the shape of the week. Your sister mentions a pattern she might try. 2 lines close, 1 line open, then the 2 again, like breath. You listen and add one small thing. The thyme near the press smelled stronger than the thyme near the path. No one asks why. The day is full of detail that does not demand a reason. When the bowls are rinsed and the lamp steadied, your mother lays a hand upon the hearthstone the way a reader might close a book. The house accepts the touch. Your father checks the bolt. Soft as always, your sister brings the spindle to the shelf, then returns it to her lap, then puts it back again, recognizing that there is no more work in it tonight. You step to the doorway shrine and add 1 drop of oil. The flame answers, as if accepting a gift from a friend who never arrives empty-handed. You step into the courtyard once more. Night has drawn itself up from the corners and taken the walls into its keeping. The fig tree is a dark, steady shape. Its branches hold small pieces of star. A moth moves through the lamp's circle and is gone. The air feels longer now, stretched by coolness into a generous cloth. You breathe and can imagine that breath crossing the room and leaving by the far window, quiet as a cat. You think about the voices at the stoa, how they weighed names and forms in the hand like stones from the shore. You hold your own day beside that thought, the drawing of water, the bread rising, the loom's tap, the boy's knee, the press's beam, and you see no quarrel. The city is made of both, of words that ask and of hands that answer. You are not outside that meeting. You are one of the crossings where thread and thread become cloth. You prepare the bedding. The mat lies straight. The blanket falls and billows once and is still. Your sister slides into her place and tucks her fingers under the edge with a sigh that sets the room's last small ripple into calm. Your mother lowers the lamp a little, but not so much that the flame forgets its duty. Your father speaks your names in the order he has always used, and then is quiet. You lie back and let the ceiling become the night sky's frame. A star stands in the square of view and then drifts, and then is replaced by another you do not know. Your breath settles. Your hands, which held the jar and the shuttle and the knife and the apple, learn the shape of rest again. Your thoughts come as lightly as moths and leave without ash. You do not say that today was better than yesterday, or that tomorrow must be better than today. You say, deep where words do not go, that a day can be whole. You say that the loom song is enough, that the fig's shade is faithful, that bread knows the hands that shape it, that water, given time and clay, waits without scorn. You say that the city, with its market and its benches and its questions and its small altars, is a good house for your life. You do not close anything. You only let it rest. The house learns the weight of quiet again. The lamp lowers its flame to a thin leaf and keeps it steady. Somewhere beyond the wall, the sea touches stone and draws back and touches again. And so another day turns, and the next begins to lean forward from the dark, and you lie within the gentle circle of your home, held by the simple things that do not leave, like a boat at anchor in a calm and faithful bay.